Welcome to IFAS Extension. Today we're going to be talking about the lagoon, the Indian River Lagoon. It's in our backyard. It's the gateway to the Atlantic Ocean, that buffering that it offers us. And we do lots of fun things. We get recreational activities at the lagoon. We do a lot of sports. We do a lot of fishing, all those types of wonderful fun things. But unfortunately, the lagoon at times is in peril. And when I say in peril, that there's things that might be harming our lagoon. So today we're going to be focusing on things that we can do as homeowners, residents, people that do boating, people that fish, people that enjoy our Indian Lagoon, what we can do to lessen those impacts and maybe make some positive steps towards that. So today I've got with me Sue Munyon.
Hi, Anita.
Hi. And she's our 4-H agent in St. Lucie County, and she has a program working with the lagoon. And tell me a little bit about the lagoon. Is it a lagoon? Because it's called the Indian River. Is it?
It's called the Indian River, but it is actually a lagoon. It is not a river. It's actually an estuary, and lagoon is another word for estuary.
Ooh, that's a big word.
Yes, it is. Estuary is actually where fresh water and salt water meet and mix, and that's exactly what happens with our Indian River Lagoon.
Oh, so the Indian River Lagoon is salt?
Yes, Indian River Lagoon is a saltwater and freshwater mix, which is called brackish water.
Okay.
And brackish water creates a very unique environment, and that's why the lagoon is so important, is because it is a very diverse and unique environment.
Wow, that's pretty cool. Yeah, I understand it's one of our treasures here on the coast, and of course we want to protect it because it is one of those treasures that if it's diverse like that. So tell me a little bit about what makes it so diverse.
Well, first of all, the mixture of the salt and fresh water makes it very unique, the brackish water. Second of all, we have the lagoon that spans 156 miles.
Wow. So where does it start?
It starts up in Volusia County in the Ponce de Leon Inlet, and it stretches down to Palm Beach County in the Jupiter Inlet.
Oh, wow.
So it's 156 miles, and it is all brackish water. And there's a barrier formed by our barrier islands that separates the lagoon from the Atlantic Ocean.
Okay, so we get fresh water coming in from the rivers, and then we've got the Atlantic Ocean, I guess, in some of these openings that they have along the lagoon. So that's how that brackish water becomes.
That's correct.
Okay.
You get a lot of fresh water in from the canals and creeks and anything that drains off of the watershed area.
Okay.
And empties into the lagoon. And then, of course, in the 5 inlets that we have, these fresh salt water is coming in and mixing.
Oh, okay.
So it creates that unique brackish water. And another unique feature about the lagoon is it spans between temperate, subtropical, and tropical climates.
Wow.
So that makes it a unique environment right there.
Right. And it probably lends itself to many other things too.
It really does.
That aren't so unique.
For the diverse plants and animals that are in there, of course, they correlate with the climate that they're in. So we have temperate, subtropical, and tropical plants and animals also that thrive in the lagoon.
Okay. And and then there's also the possibility of things that can be introduced into the lagoon that thrive in those situations as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a blessing and a curse all at the same time, because the lagoon then is now a great opportunity for invasives to come in, not only animals but plants as well. So that is an issue that is of concern for the Indian River Lagoon, is invasives.
Wow, that's a good point that you bring out. Well, I know that you have a boat. You go fishing?
Yes.
And so
my family loves to fish, and you know, the tourist aspect of the lagoon is huge. You know, people love to be on the water. People love to be in the lagoon area because it's so diverse and there's so much to see and do. So fishing is just one of those wonderful things that you can do on the lagoon, and it brings in tourist money, and it's very important to the economics of all of the 5 counties that border the lagoon.
Oh, that's a good point. I know I like kayaking.
Yes, it's beautiful.
Yeah, and I've even done the board sailing, where you're on like a surfboard and you have you're
paddleboarding.
Paddleboarding. That's it. Yeah, paddleboarding. Yes.
Yeah, those are all great fun things that you can do on the lagoon, and it brings a lot of tourists in because it's unique and it's a lot of fun. So
yeah. And in those places, it's shallow enough so you can you can see the bottom, or you can see different things. I've seen a lot of wildlife in the water as we're kayaking or paddleboarding.
There's over 4,000 species of plants and animals that live in the lagoon.
Wow.
So it's very diverse, and it's just full of marine life. And it's very important because it serves as a nursery habitat for marine life that eventually makes it out to the Atlantic Ocean.
And of course, having that nursery provides habitat and buffering for these little fishes that turn into big fishes that we might want to eat.
That's exactly what happens. They use the seagrass as a place for a nursery. They hide out in there.
Yeah.
They also use the mangroves. The mangrove roots that go down into the water serve as a great nursery for the marine life that live in the lagoon. And eventually, as they get bigger, they will go out into the ocean.
Ah, okay. All right. So that's an important feature too. So I know that those that what do they call them, propagules, the roots of the mangroves.
Yes, there's three different types of mangroves. There's reds, blacks, and whites. Reds are the ones that have the roots.
Propagules. Yeah.
Yes, and they look like fingers, and they're called sometimes the walking tree.
Okay.
And they look like they're on legs.
Yeah.
So that makes a great habitat. The black have the root system that goes straight up in the air, and they gather oxygen and bring it to the plant. And then the whites are further upland.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that sounds pretty cool. Well, when we look at some of the other things that are in there, so we've talked about the great attributes that the estuary has, but I know there's a lot of concerns from different things that come into the lagoon. We touched briefly on things that might, like plants or animals that might become invasive in the lagoon, but there's some other things too that are problematic, or that we believe that could be problematic. What are some of those?
Well, the list is long. And so we'll only touch on a few of them, but these are some of the things that we bring to the forefront of students that we are trying to teach about the lagoon. Things that people at home, they're part of the problem. So people in the watershed area for the Indian River Lagoon is over 2,000 square acres of property which is mostly of St. Lucie County.
Yeah.
And when we talk specifically,
so it's not just the people that live right on the lagoon.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's people all in the watershed area. So they are also part of the problem, but they can also be part of the solution. So we're trying to get that message across to the students so they can take it home to their parents and say, things that we do at home, the amount of fertilizer that we put on our yard, the trash that we leave in a parking lot somewhere, the dog waste that we need to be responsible and pick up, and not put chemicals unnecessarily onto our landscaping or our yard. So there's a lot of ways, a lot of simple ways that people can help the lagoon at home and help to cure this problem. I don't know that the problem will ever go away, but the more knowledge that we have and the more people are aware that what they do in the watershed area, which would be in the Port St. Lucie area, west of Fort Pierce, all of those areas affect the lagoon.
Yeah, so it's not just right on the shoreline.
Absolutely not. And of course, septic systems are a problem as well. And that is something that the powers that be need to look at and find out a long-term solution for that.
Well, yeah, I think there was someone telling me just recently that they didn't realize septic tanks should be monitored or checked. And so, you could have a septic system, and usually they don't get checked or monitored unless something fails.
Exactly.
And that could be how many years, and so, yeah, there's a very intense possibility that could be a problem.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
So those are all contributing factors to the problems of the lagoon. And then, of course, we have the freshwater runoff, which has to do with weather. And
rainfall, which we have lots of that.
Exactly. And, some years we have more than others, so that affects the lagoon in different ways.
Yeah, so then you're getting a lot of fresh water coming in and not as much salt water. And then when you have freshwater releases, like from Lake Okeechobee or other areas, that kind of dilutes that salt.
Exactly. It dilutes the salt, and it also muddies up the water so that the seagrass cannot get the sunlight. The oysters that are in the river or the lagoon do not get the sunlight, and they do not have the clear water that they need. So there's a lot of factors to that. Some are in our control and some are not in our control.
Wow, so that's an amazing thing in itself. So the biggest threats that we're looking at then are stormwater runoff and wastewater, possibly from septic systems.
Possibly. There's a lot of different entities out there that are doing studies of water quality and where are the hot spots. And it is it's research, so as you know, the research takes a while to compile the data and to figure out what are the results of research. So the sooner we can get the entities that are working with the water quality to figure out where those hot spots are and pinpoint some of these targeted issues, then we can start to begin to work on it. But my guess, and it's only my opinion, but I feel like there's a lot of different factors that go into water quality. So
well, it's like that with everything, right? It's
exactly.
Like when we're trying to lose weight, it's not just one thing we need to do, it's several things.
Exactly.
So
there's several different factors that are going to be affecting the results and the health of the lagoon. So everyone needs to be aware that what they do at their own home affects the lagoon, and here's some steps that you can take in order to do your part and to protect the lagoon.
Okay. Well, we're going to take a brief break, and when we come back, we're going to learn about those steps that we can do to touch the lagoon. Welcome back to IFAS St. Lucie County Extension, and today we also have a new guest joining us, Commissioner Zadowski. Welcome.
Thanks.
We have Sue coming back with us, so thank you for staying with us.
Sure.
And we are talking about today the lagoon and what we can do to lessen our impacts on the lagoon. So Sue, tell us a little bit briefly about some of the programs that you have that are youth focused.
Yeah, we talked earlier about educating youth and how important it is for the continued conservation and health of the lagoon. So in third graders, we're offering What's in the Water of Your Lagoon. And it talks about the marine pyramid and consumers and producers and the levels and why that's also important on the health of the lagoon. And in fourth grade, we talk about sharks. And of course, that is really interesting because first of all kids love sharks, and the lagoon has sharks in it, and they are an important part of the system as well. In fifth grade, we talk about the lagoon and you, and that's where we get into where can you directly, you and your family, help the lagoon, and what can be done at home and in the watershed area of the lagoon to help in the long run. And
that's where they go seining?
That's where they go seining. Cool. And with all the programs, we have the children actually get wet, get into the lagoon, because that's the only way they're going to take ownership in it. So we need to create an ownership and an experience so that they can identify with it and love it like most of us do. The last one is for seventh graders. It's an oyster adventure, and that is an in-depth oyster study on how oysters help the lagoon and what the different parts of the oyster are and how they filter water.
They dissect them, don't they?
And they dissect the oysters, and they actually place oysters in oyster reefs.
Okay, so they actually do the deployment.
They do.
Oh, very cool.
So they have a very in-depth study of it, and they actually take part in the oyster reef restoration, and they can take ownership in that as well.
Well, I know, Commissioner Zadowski, you've worked with kids, adults, all kinds of people with the lagoon. Kind of share some of what you've been doing with the lagoon and with some of our community members.
Well, to go back to the seining side, I was actually able to participate in several classes. And what's amazing is the children look at the lagoon and they just see water.
Yeah.
Only until such time as they bring up the seining material and they go, wow, this is all in here?
Yeah.
You know, arrow crabs and fish and turtles and you name it. It's amazing what they find. And they really believe then that the lagoon is a living organism.
Yeah, good point.
And they look at it from afar, but even adults, let's face it, until you get down into it and really take a hard look, you just think it's just water. But there's such a diverse estuary that we love and work with on a daily basis.
Yeah.
From my side, I was still am a dive instructor, and I came here in 1994. And when I found this place, it was paradise. And learning about the lagoon and understanding how diverse it was and how the fisheries interact with the offshore reefs was important to me. So I knew that when I retired from the airline industry after 28 years, this was going to be my home. And first thing I did is got a boat.
Yeah.
And fishing and diving has been a large part of my life, and the water. I started my water fight for clean water in 1994 in the Keys, and then later here in Fort Pierce, St. Lucie County.
Yeah, you've been very instrumental in getting a lot of things accomplished here on the lagoon. And we thank you for that.
Well, some will call me a troublemaker, but on the other side, I think
I don't know if that'll change.
I'm trying to be a healer. That's my goal.
Well, that's a good mission.
Let's heal our waterways and make it beneficial for the
that's really good.
Community.
That's really good. Well, I know that you have a lot of experience in that part here. Are there things that you're working on now to try to bring more health? I know Sue's talked in the earlier session here about some of the things that we can do from people that are in the watershed, not even necessarily right on the lagoon, that they can do to benefit. Is there some things that you're working on currently that you want to share with us?
Absolutely. I mean, I sit on the 5 Counties Collaborative, that all the county representatives are at the table from Volusia to Martin County. And we continue to push on things collectively on how we can better manage and deal with water quality, removing contaminants from the water, and also lobbying for dollars from the state and federal government. I also sit on the Indian River Lagoon National Estuary Program, to which we are currently rebuilding into a new organization, which will also benefit the lagoon in bringing more monies to the table to help with water quality. St. Lucie County has probably right now in process 10 or 11 different water quality projects. The most recent I say, it's a 10-year project, and we are now moving to the final stages in redoing 178 acres of a salt marsh near the Harbor Branch campus. That is the most recent. Of course, the oyster bed restoration program, I work closely with Jim Oppenborn, and our volunteers are incredibly amazing, and the students are amazing. We just actually created a whole new oyster slab to take materials so that we can make sure we cure them over a 60-90 day period, and then we do the bagging. So there are a lot of things that are going on, but the fertilizer ordinance was a huge effort, but getting people educated to that process.
That's an ongoing battle.
It is, and you know, there's one thing that just really bugs me, and I got to get it off my chest here, if that's okay with you. You know, when people cut their grass, and you have the professional landscapers cut your grass, don't let them blow the material into the street.
Absolutely.
That's the worst possible thing you can do.
Because that's all nutrient.
Yeah. Blow it back onto your grass. It becomes a natural mulch for you at home. So it's good for your soil, and it's good for your plants. But don't blow it into the street. That's the worst place it can possibly go, because it ends up in the drainage and then ultimately into the lagoon. Yeah,
you're absolutely right. And that's what Sue teaches the kids. It's like you drop a piece of paper in the parking lot. Where's it go? And in unison, the lagoon.
Yeah.
You know, so they know. And of course, what we hope is when she teaches the youth, that they go home and teach the parents, which we know from experience, you know, like with the brushing your teeth to turn the water off, Mom. Why do you need the water on? You know, or recycle. Why are you throwing that in the garbage? It could be recycled. So they have a great way of helping parents, maybe nagging parents to do the right thing. So we're hoping that'll be the case. And you're absolutely right. We teach through the green industry best management practices things where you don't blow that on, and that's actually something that can be fined for. So
you know, I think we need to bring back the Indian. Those of us who are of our maturity level, and maybe the parents at home are watching this. Remember the Indian?
Oh, the little tear.
The
Yeah.
tear,
Yeah.
and you know, that was something that hit everybody back then, and it changed the culture.
Yeah.
You know, we've changed cultures within our community with children in seatbelts. You know, click it, and now the kids are telling their parents, you know, is your seatbelt. So we can change the culture.
Yeah.
We just got to do it one step at a time, and what we're doing in the schools is helping do that.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that's a really great idea. Well, I know, Sue, there's other programs that you're looking at. What other educational programs are you looking at currently?
We're looking at getting a invasive species program going, and it's going to be working with middle school and high school students, and also with adult audiences.
Oh, that's cool.
So we, you know, we were talking about how the lagoon is a temperate, subtropical, and tropical climate, and it spans all those climates. So it's perfect for invasives to come.
Which come in ballast from our ships
They
and
come
other
in
things.
the ballast
Yeah.
of ships
Birds.
that come in.
Birds,
they come
yeah.
with birds. They come in with people who think
People,
that they're
yeah.
bringing a beautiful plant or a very special animal, and then they find out that maybe it needs to be released into the wild for whatever reason. So there's a lot of different ways that invasives get brought into our area. The issue is we need to identify what those invasives are, and we need to let people know that please don't just let your pet that you no longer want out into the wild, and please do not plant something into your landscape that you don't really know what it is, and it's usually from another country. If it doesn't grow here naturally, there's probably a good reason why. So that is a program that we're going to be starting, and we're kind of excited about this. There's a new pilot coming up that we're going to be working in March. We're going to be working with a middle school group, and we're very excited for that one.
And I think from what my understanding is this program is a three-part series, like most of your 4-H programs where you're not just one time.
Correct.
You go in several
Correct.
times.
Because, you know, it takes a while for the concepts to sink in, and these are lifetime concepts. These are not one-time memorize it and you're done kind of concepts. These are kind of changing behaviors. So it's a 3-part series, and there's a lot of role-playing that goes along with the
They
last
get to put
part
on a
of the
hat like a
series.
commissioner.
Yes,
right.
they get
Yeah,
to
and
be
a construction
decision makers
guy.
in their
Yeah.
community.
Yeah.
And eventually these youth are going to be the decision makers in our community. So it kind of gives them a heads up on what the future might be.
Very cool.
Well, if I could segue my dive experience, you know, a lot of people have fish tanks, you know, aquariums at home,
Yeah.
and a lot of those fish are Pacific based, and we have an invasive right now. Speaking of invasives, the lionfish, they're taking over our reefs. Just 2 weeks ago, we found a yellow tang, and so that clearly tells me that people are taking their aquarium fish when they're either moving or doing something, rather than take it back to the fish store or to Harbor Branch. To be properly worked with, they're putting it into the lagoon or they're putting it into the ocean. That may sound like the right thing to do, but it's absolutely positively the wrong thing to do.
Yeah.
So reach out to your pet store or Harbor Branch or some other agency, and please don't put your aquarium fish into the ocean.
Very good point. And the same is true for plant material. A lot of homeowners think, well, I'm doing a good thing. I don't have to put it by the road to be hauled to the landfill. I'm saving the landfill or all that debris. I'll just put it over here in this vacant lot. And then it's how we get escaped plant material into natural areas. So that's very true. Same kind of concept. So people think they might be doing the right thing, but it's really not. So good points.
So that's where we need to educate our youth, is to not do some of these practices and then go home and teach their families.
Yeah,
There you have it.
there's that concept again. That's great. Well, that's really good. Well, any more ideas or advice either one of you have?
Oh, just stay tuned. Everything is happening in St. Lucie County between UF
I know this is the
IFAS
happen in
and-
place, huh?
Yeah, and the school system and what we're doing at the county. We're going to have Oyster Fest coming up April 4th. That'll be held at the Riverwalk Center in Fort Pierce off of Indy River Drive.
And are we bagging oysters or eating oysters? Or
We are
both?
eating oysters.
Okay, we're eating oysters, okay.
But the side part of that is last year we did 25,000 oysters, so that actually made up a whole bed. So we have our own Oyster Fest beds that we create after the fact.
After the fact. So come eat your oysters and then we can bag up new ones.
Absolutely, and
Yeah.
I think we're having anywhere between 10 and 14 different types of oysters this year, and it's actually a fundraiser to help fund the oyster bed restoration program.
Okay.
But as importantly, our artificial reef program, and this is being held by the Sea Life Habitat Improvement Project. or SHIP, and it's in cooperation with the county and the city and the marinas. And we have a lot of great sponsors, so if anybody wants to sponsor or be a part of it, a vendor, just look up the Sea Life Habitat Improvement Project, or SHIP, and check the website, and we'll be happy to have you.
Great, great. Any other thoughts you have?
Well, just like Commissioner Zadowski said, stay tuned, because 4-H is always coming up with new programs, and we are open to new programs, and just there's endless possibilities for this topic in the lagoon, and we will be proceeding as we can with new programs.
Well, I know both of you were at the Indian River Lagoon Science Festival that we had in September of last year, and I believe they're having it again this year. So another opportunity to share about the lagoon.
Oh, that was a great success.
Yeah, and share some science, of course, as well, which is my favorite, with youth and adults as well. So.
Yes.
Well, thank you both for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you all for tuning in, and stay tuned for next month when we have another adventure with Extension.